What could have happened in the meantime is that, seeing as these guys have moved, they are now within two hexes of the Ushio clan members. What would now have happened if they had been inactive, if I hadn't used my activation points, they would have become active automatically. And here I have to say that the rules are written a little strangely. So unfortunately, this information comes later, after the whole question around activation has been discussed under 5.2, and I find that a bit problematic. It should have come much earlier. So basically, and now if I can find it, no. Well, it says it somewhere in the rules, and like I said, I mean, I think this would have been really good if we'd had this information in one place. So basically, if a contingent is within 2 hexes of an active enemy contingent, then it is active. It is activated. Oh yeah, it says so. Activation status is determined anew in each player's activation phase as follows. First, all contingents adjacent to enemy units are active. So basically, directly adjacent means they're active. All contingents within 2 hexes of an enemy active unit as above are also active. The rest are inactive regardless of what they did last turn until activated by the Sota Isho. So what we now have to do is we now have to determine what we're going to do with these guys, and seeing as this is my first play, what I want to do is, because I really always like to try out how battle works. I mean, at the end of the day, this is a war game. This is not, chess, kind of like moving pieces around and hoping for the best, but this is a war game. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be really reckless, because I have no idea if this is even a good idea. I'm going to move these guys in to attack the Fukubara infantry. So I'm going to move in here. 1. And these guys are going to move in here. 1, 2. So this is now the movement phase and now the fire phase. So they get to fire, and they also get to fire because they can do return fire. So let's see. That we can zoom in on the action here. So these guys are going to attack these guys in shock combat, which is going to be a different phase, and these guys have just moved into the zone of control of this cavalry group that is also armed with bows, so they get to do reaction fire. So first of all, the range in hexes between these two is 1. So we roll a die and we roll a 7. Now the die roll is 7, which within the range of 1 hex means, and there is no implications from the terrain. It means that these guys take 2 hits. And they take 2 hits. Now, they also get to fire. Now, these are SIB. And it's again 1 hex. They roll a 5. -1 because they were moved in the same phase as they fired. And a -1 because they're bow armed and they're firing against KB. And these are in close order, so it's a +1, so it's a 4. So out of 4, these guys take 1 hit. Okay, so that's done. Okay, and these guys will now shock in the later phase, but first everybody else needs to move as well. So we're going to move this group. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And they would also get to shock. Actually, I'll have to check if they can actually shock because these guys are across the river, but we'll see that. We'll have to check that. Okay, now these guys are going to move as well. And as you can see, this is going to take a very long time because the movement phase, you know, they only have very few hexes that they can move. 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 4, 4. Okay, so they're not going to do anything. They're just going to stand there, basically. And these guys are going to move south. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so now let's see if these guys would shock. I have there is nothing in any of the tables that they can't shock. Oh, it just means that the effect will be that there will be a shift. Okay, so basically what we're now going to be doing is we're now going to have to check if these guys will after all shock. So we're now in the shock phase. So in the pre-shock commitment check, units must check markers need to see if troops will actually attack. So we'll see if they will attack. So that's number 923 in our rules. So let's see what 923 actually says. 923 says 921. Oh, sorry, they don't need to check because they moved before. So these guys actually will definitely shock attack. Very good. Good to know. So now let's see. Now the defenders need to see, does it have any effect on them? Defender reaction check. All non-engaged targets of shock now undertake a reaction check by rolling 1 die for each unit. In all Norikutsushi, which we're not doing because that is a little bit like, for those of you who've played Infidel, that's like the knights charging. This is not happening here because none of these are Akibamusha. Okay, let's see. So we're going to roll. It's only 1 unit for them. Their TQ is 7. So this is actually a 2. So that's fine. These guys take no hit from being attacked. There is no samurai. Okay, so undertake any non-samurai individual combat, which I don't think we have. No, there are no Busho involved, so nothing's happening there. There is no induced Busho casualties. No, we don't have anyone stacked, so that's fine too. So, use Clash of Arms chart to determine which column on the short CRT will be used. Clash of Arms chart. This is this chart over here. And depending, the defender is an SI. Okay. The attacker is either SI or AS. Okay, now we have to consult the rules. What happens if we have different types of attackers? If the attacker is attacking with more than 1 unit and such attack is coming from more than 1 angle, the attacker chooses the angle of attack most advantageous to him. If there are more than 1 attacking unit, the attacker determines the type he will use. So we're going to use the SI because they're also in the flank. Okay, now we will have to start making notes because this is now going to be a little more difficult. So, out comes my trusted. Okay, so we have SI as a defender, which means Clash of Arms chart 7. This would be the column. Okay. Then we have seven would be this, and if I were to take AS, then it would be 5. Okay, I don't see. Oh, actually. No, 7 would be advantageous. Okay, so we take this one. Okay, then we have to determine position superiority. If a friendly unit is attacking an enemy through its flank or rear, it is considered position superiority. with regard to the defender. However, whichever unit the attacker uses to determine position superiority must also be used to determine the shock volume on the clash arms. If that's what we're doing. Okay. And now we have to determine numerical superiority. Compare the number of attacking units to the number of those defending. So we have 2 versus 1. For each unit that one side has greater than the other, that side gets a shock results table column adjustment of 2 in its favor. The attacker adjusts to the right, the defender to the left. Okay. So, we would actually then get a shock results table adjustment of 2 in its favor to the right. So 2 to the right, which means we would be in number 9. Why is that better? Okay. But then we also have to check for terrain. And since it's a river, 2 to the left, so we are again at 7. Okay, so basically, and then we have the river, 2 to the left, so we are at 7 again. So let's roll a die and hope that this was right. We roll an 8. And 8 means 2 hits for the attacker and 3 on the defender. Okay, now since we have 2 attacking units, we will split these evenly. Each one gets 1, 1, and 1, and 2 for the defender. And this means that we have now concluded the first turn. We've had the orders phase, which we started with movement, shock, a movement and fire segment. There wasn't any. Oh yes, there was. There wasn't any fire for the Modi. They just basically moved around and nothing really happened. So there was no fire. There was nobody they could have fired at. There was no shock combat. And they lost their momentum. So basically then play passed over to the Amako player, who then moved south, and then there was the first round of fire combat, namely here, and then there was the first shock combat, namely here. So now they could roll for continuity. With an 8, they fail because it's higher than 4. And this means now they're both finished, and now we have the recovery phase, which we don't have to do, or which we could do, but there is nothing happening because we don't have any finished Busho. We don't need to replace any eliminated Busho. We don't have to flip units that used ordered fire. Probably because I forgot to flip them in the first place. I suppose ordered fire is something which these guys undertook. Okay. Okay, so basically these guys did ordered fire, so I would have had to flip them. So after this, they would have only been able to do reaction fire. Right. Yeah. Okay, so basically now we're done. This was the first game turn, which is now complete. And now comes the next turn, and I'm going to upload this video. Thanks for watching.